Hey folks, welcome back to another review with yours truly, Sam Healey. Today, we're taking a look at this guy right here, Fantasy Baseball. Now basically, this is a card counting game, almost. But on top of that, what you've got going on here is a fantasy baseball team action that I think a lot of people are probably going to sink their teeth into. You're basically taking your team of goblins and orcs and skeletons and all of these different kinds of fantasy characters through a season of baseball carried out in 3 rounds. Then the top 2 players of those 3 rounds, the 2 teams that have the most wins, get to go to the championship series. And the best of 4, or I'm sorry, the best of 7 is who wins the game. So let's get down to the table, I'll show you, and then we'll come back for some final thoughts afterwards. So in a game of fantasy baseball, each player is taking on the role of a wizard manager over a fantasy-themed baseball team. So you're going to have orcs, you're going to have angels, you're going to have warriors, you're going to have skeletons. All of these different things are going to be in your team. Now, at the beginning of the game, everyone is given a hand of cards equal to 7. You're going to have 3 rookies given to you. You're also going to have 1 Hall of Famer, 1 pro, 1 specialist, and 1 all-star in your team, which makes up 7 cards. And then you're going to take this hand of cards, you're going to choose one of them that you want to keep. Let's say I want to keep, yeah, this guy has a 10, he's an all-star. I'm going to keep him, and then I'm going to pass the rest of my hand over to the next player. They're going to choose one from their hand, and so forth and so on until we've all drafted back 7 cards into our hands. So there is a drafting mechanism there that I really do enjoy. So after everybody has done that, you're going to have your hand of your team. And then you're going to be able to choose one person to get rid of. Let's say, more than likely, I usually choose a rookie, but sometimes maybe you won't. I don't know. I've already got guys that have strikeout capabilities, 2 of them here, so I'm going to get rid of this guy. So the regular season is comprised of basically 3 months of play, which basically translates to 3 rounds of play. The first thing you do is you prepare the season or the month, which means that we take these win cards and we set them up like this. In the first round of the game, there is no free agency. People are pretty much just restricted to the teams that they have drafted at the beginning of the game. But after that, the 2nd and 3rd rounds, you are able to go through a free agency draft. So in a free agency draft, a number of cards is flipped up from the character deck equal to the number of players plus 2. So in this 2-player game that I have set up for you, we would flip over 4. So whoever is first in waiver order going this way on the track over there would be able to pick first. So purple is able to pick one of these cards from the waiver wire here and replace one of his cards from his deck. Now here's where I'm going to talk about the event card deck, because the event card deck is an option to the game, but I just wanted to show it to you just in case you wanted to do it. So the event deck is full of things that will provide other variations or restrictions. So for example, evil hitters get -1 to all of their stats. If you look down at the card here, you'll have a good or evil symbol down here. Then you also have a magic ability that is possibly usable, and then these are all of his stats. His position on the field and number are up there, so you get the idea. Each of the cards are basically same as far as layout is concerned. So this event deck will provide different restrictions and or change-ups throughout the course of the game. So the first month here, what we simply do is turn over the top event card. And now in the set roster phase, we're going to be taking a look at the different win conditions that are out there, looking through our decks and picking players to occupy each of these different areas on our diamond right here. So we're basically going to be placing cards like this in fashion. So this card, whatever it is going to be vying for that win card. This card is going to be vying for that win card, and so forth and so on. So you're going to have 2 cards that are left over, and those cards are going to be used for the magical ability that is on the card. You can use this during the course of the round to affect your total in some way. So here it says go up one stat track of your choice. So maybe you're not going to win over here, but maybe you just want to raise one of your stat tracks over here. This one guy says evil players can't win this week. So that would be a pretty strong card to play, but he's injured right now. Next is the play ball phase, where each player is going to be vying for control of these different win cards. So we go to the first base first, we flip over our cards here, and we're looking at wins plus saves. So my guy here, K-Star from the Dark Angels, has a 5 win and a 6 save. So his total is 11, where this guy over here is a 10-1, which is also 11. Now in this case, in ties, good always beats evil. But because we're both evil, nobody actually wins, but we will be able to go up in our stat track here. So nobody will get this card, but we both can raise our yellow and blue stats if our player has those stats. K-Star does, so he'll be able to go up 1 on yellow and 1 on blue, like so. So we flip over the second basers over here, and we're looking at average or ERA. So I have an ERA over here of Doc Spirit Day from the Ghosts. He has an ERA of 9. Over here, Harry Eck has an ERA of 8. So it's 9-8. And so Doc Spirit Day will win this card, giving him 3 wins toward his final total at the end of the season. Harry Eck over here, though, did not win, but he can raise any of his stats here by 1 if they match over here. So he's able to raise his yellow, green, and orange, and we're looking at wins and strikes added together. So here, PD Bites from the Vampires has both of those categories, equaling 13. Kate Vermeow does not have either of those. So PD Bites definitely wins the card, but Kate Vermeow is able to raise red and yellow stats. On this one, we're looking for best batting average. So we're looking for best batting average. Garfoose does not have anything, and neither does Burt Money. But Garmoose does have a blue stat, and he will be able to raise it by 1. So after the play ball phase is over, we go to the cleanup phase, where the player with the least number of total wins will become first in the waiver order, like so. Blue is definitely, they didn't get any wins this round, so they'll be first in the waiver order. Then you will take all of your cards back up into your hand and get ready for the next round to begin, like so. And then you begin another round played in the same fashion as that first round, with the caveat being that in the first round there's no free agency, but in the second and third rounds there is. At the end of the regular season, the 2 teams who have the most wins will move on into a championship round, best 4 out of 7, basically. Now, added to your cards here are a number of wins that are awarded to whoever has the best stats. So if we look at this chart right here, this tells you how many wins are added to your total depending upon your position on each stat track. Then whoever has the most wins combined from stat tracking and win cards goes, the 2 teams with the highest go to the championship round, and a best of 7 is played in the same fashion as the regular monthly season. But in this case, instead of using the number of wins that's listed on the win card, it just counts as 1 win. So Whoever wins this one won game 1, and whoever wins this one won game 2, and so forth and so on until one person racks up 4 win cards. And whoever does that is the actual winner of the game and is awarded the Fantasy Baseball Championship Trophy. So that is Fantasy Baseball by CSE Games. Now, a lot of the aspects of this game, I think, are supposed to be targeting that bridge that they're trying to build between the proverbial jock who really loves stats, really loves sports, and really just goes the gusto on memorizing all of these stats and all that kind of stuff. They're trying to bridge the gap between that guy and the gamer who loves playing board games and probably also loves sports in some level, on some level rather. And I think they're doing a pretty good job. They've done a pretty good job at spanning that bridge, trying to reach across from one side to the other. This is a game where you need to be able to remember what the different kinds of cards that have already been played as you go through those different rounds. And then during the free agencies in rounds 2, 3, and 4, or rather 2 and 3, you need to know what somebody might be looking for and definitely what you need. And if those two can coincide, then that's the one you're definitely going to take. So there's a lot of stat crunching, I guess you could say, that goes into this game. You need to remember what people have played, and I like that. I enjoy that because you're going on at least partial information in subsequent rounds after that first round. So I do enjoy that almost deeper memory aspect that's going on in the game that kind of simulates that whole idea of stat crunching that a lot of people who enjoy sports are really looking for, and that's part of what makes sports enjoyable for them, just remembering all of those different things. On top of that, I love the fantasy aspect of it. I just think it's goofy, but I really enjoy how all of the different cards works. The names of the different players are all kind of funny. The special abilities of the magic, the magic abilities that players can have, those are all neat and useful throughout the course of the game. So there's a lot of good stuff that's going on here. But there were a couple of things that I just wasn't really on board with, and it's probably just personal things for me, not necessarily problems with the game. First of all, the stat board, the big green monster, I know that's probably part of what went into it, but the pegboard just wasn't really doing it for me. It was a cool idea, I guess, but with having the bats be our pegs and that type of thing, I like that. I think it's interesting, but it's also way cumbersome. It would have been much better if they had maybe dials, or a player board that had 5 dials on it or something to that effect, which was just less cumbersome and didn't take up so much space on the table, because basically that's all that pegboard's good for, is tracking each individual stats, and it takes up a lot of room on the table. As far as gameplay is concerned though, this is fun. It's enjoyable. Just a couple of little nitpicky things that I didn't really enjoy. The big green monsters, one, the event deck is probably something that I'll more often than not leave out because it just adds that extra level of random chaos. And I know the other side of that, you can say, no, you have to plan a little bit better for that turn. Yeah, I guess so. But sometimes, and the way it turned out when we played, it just kept you from doing something that would have just made the rounds a little bit more interesting. Yeah. So on top of all that, 2 players for me, and also solo for me, not worth it. If I'm going to play fantasy baseball, it's going to be with 3, 4, or 5 players. There's no reason for me to play at 2 players because, quite frankly, the 3 rounds that you play for the regular season, why? You're both going to make it to the championship round. Well, so I guess you kind of can see what I'm doing. I'm not a solo gamer, so one solo's out for me as well. So, but 3, 4, and 5 is where this game sings, for me at least. But all in all, I think the game is fine. It's fun. It does what I think it was trying to do in simulating the fantasy baseball aspect of of taking your team and that you've drafted from these different sources and putting your team against against somebody else's drafted team. For me, I'm really looking forward to the next installment in this series, and I hope it funds fantasy football, but that's neither here nor there at this point. I think it'll do fine, but I like the football version. I was able to play it at Snakes and Lattes with another guy, Fabio taught us, so I enjoyed that one a little bit more than this one, but we'll see how it goes. That's it from me for fantasy baseball. We'll see you guys on the flip side.